Alright, so now we're ready to assemble our puzzle cubes, our 5 pieces. So we're going to click New, choose Standard IAM, Create, okay, and here's our browser, here's our window, here's our ribbon. Looks a little different than our 2D or 3D because we're in assembly, not in an IPT anymore. Look over here on the browser. You see it says Assembly 3. That's because I deleted Assembly 1 and 2 because I made mistakes. So that's okay. You're going to make mistakes, and if you do, it's alright that it says Assembly 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever it is that you need to make it right. When you save it, though, it will be saved as whatever name, and then these are just the number of assemblies. You're only going to need one assembly for all 5 pieces. Another thing I noticed when you guys were working on this, that sometimes you lost your browser or your navigational bar or tool. So to get those back, up here you're going to click View. That's the tab. And then you see it brings up Visibility Panel, Appearance, Windows. Above Windows is User Interface. You're going to click that on, and then that brings up choices for you to reselect. So that brought up the navigational bar. This brings back the browser. So anytime you lose the browser or the navigational bar or even the view cube, you can click View, User Interface, and then select the ones that you need. So now we're ready to start assembling. You're going to click the Assembly tab, and we're going to place a component. We're going to place our first piece in our puzzle cube solution. So you need your puzzle cube solution out so that you can see in your isometric form which cube you're going to bring in first. Okay, and it has to be oriented the correct way. So I'm going to bring in my yellow piece, and this is the way I need to have it oriented. But you're going to notice when I bring it in, it's not going to be oriented that way. It's going to be oriented the way that I constructed it. So we click Open once you've selected the piece that you want to bring in for your first assembled piece. Okay, and there it is. Now, over here in the browser bar, this first piece you bring in is grounded, which means it cannot be moved. And the icon's going to look a little different. This icon over here for that yellow cube has a push pin going through it. And any of your subsequent pieces that are going to come in will look different as far as the icon is concerned. Okay? So I'm going to open up my IPT that I created, and my yellow IPT, not my IAM, but my IPT, so that you can see how different it looks. Alright, so this is the way it should be oriented in my solution. This is the way it was constructed when I made it initially. So I need to reorient this so that it looks like this when I start my assembly. So to do that, we are going to rotate it so that we can make it look like this piece here. So I'm going to go back to my assembly, and these are your tabs down here. You may have several things open. This is my .ipt, and this is my assembly. So I'm going to click my assembly tab on, and I am going to rotate this piece using the orbit, okay, until I get it the way I want it to be in my puzzle cube solution. So this is the way it looks in my puzzle cube solution. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before when I was creating the IPT. I'm going to make this my front view. And then I'm going to make this my isometric or my home view. Okay, so now when I hit this, you see these two look the same. This is my .ipt, this is my assembly, and you can hardly tell that I even switched windows. So this is my first piece that I'm going to bring in. Now I'm going to bring in another piece. Okay, I'm going to bring in my brown piece. So you select that, click Open, and then click on the graph window, right click, and click OK. Now you see I can move this around, and then look at the icon over here. You can see that it looks different. Always hit the plus sign next to these so that you can see what's happening and what you're actually working in. So if I click on the yellow piece, you see that that gets highlighted. If I click on the brown piece, this is what gets highlighted. So I'm working with the brown piece. Another thing I want you to look at is up here, position. That's what we're going to be using today. Rotate or move is how you move an individual piece or rotate an individual piece. So if I click on rotate, I can individually rotate this brown piece, or I can individually move this brown piece. Okay? I could do the same thing with this yellow piece, except that it's grounded. Okay? That means that it can't move unless you use this orbit here. Then you can move it within the graphical screen. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble it. Okay. We're going to assemble this piece to this piece somehow. So you have to go back to your solution and look at it. And we're going to use constraints. Okay. So now I'm going to move this brown piece and rotate it so that I can mate the surfaces with the yellow piece. In other words, so that those surfaces are touching each other. So I'm going to rotate this because I want this surface and this surface to mate with the yellow surface here and underneath. So I'm going to place a mate, and this is mate, and this is flush. Those are the two constraints that we're going to be using today. So I'm going to mate this side with this because that's where I want those two pieces to fit together. Okay, and then I click apply, cancel. Now I want to move this out. Okay, and then I am going to place a constraint here, and then I'm going to rotate both pieces so that I can get to the underside of that yellow piece. Now to deselect the orbit, I press escape, and now I'm going to place my mate there, and then click apply. So now if you look over here, I have one mate here and here, and then my second mate is on the top of that and the bottom of this. So now what we're doing is we are eliminating the 6 degrees of freedom. So you see I've eliminated, I've eliminated 3 degrees of freedom. Okay? So now the only other one we have is between here and here. So we're going to place flush, which means that we are going to now make these edges flush with each other. This edge with this edge. And then click apply. And now that piece is assembled. So I'm going to bring this back to my home. Okay. And now if you look at your solution, you'll see that these two pieces fit together in my isometric solution. Now I'm going to bring in my third piece. So I'm going to place, and then I want to bring in my green piece. Click open. Okay, and then I'm going to place this in there. Right click and click OK. Now I can move this, and I can rotate this piece the way I need it to go in my solution. Okay, so I need to open up my IPT, okay, so that I can see the way that this should be oriented in order to put in to my piece. Now if you look here, okay, I have my green piece, my brown piece, my yellow piece, and look at this icon. You see this one has a push pin. These two don't. So this is my grounded piece. That's the first piece I brought in. Now I have mates on 2 of my pieces, and now I'm going to mate and flush my third piece. That's why there's nothing down below here. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and open up my green IPT, so that I can see how it needs to be oriented. Okay, so I see that I need to reorient this so that it fits in properly. Okay, so I'm going to do that with this piece so that I know where to place my mates and my flushes. Okay, and you can always refer back to that if you forget how to orient it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open that piece again just to make sure that I have it right, my green piece. Okay. Okay, and I can see how it's supposed to go. I think that's right. Okay, so now look at your solution, and this green piece is going to fit here. Okay, so I want to rotate this piece, okay, so that I have the underside, and I'm going to place my mate here and here. Okay, click apply. Alright, and now I can move this piece out. Okay, and I need to make this surface with the inside surface of the yellow. Okay, so you really need to look to see how it fits together. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my home. Okay, and I just eliminated some degrees of freedom. Okay, so now I want to make this flush with these outer edges. You can make it flush here and here. You can make it flush here and here. Let's try this. Let's see if this really does it. It may not. So I'm going to make this flush with this. See, that didn't really do anything because it was already, I had already eliminated that degree of freedom. So I'm going to delete that flush. Okay, and where it's moving and where I need it to stop are between this edge and this edge, not this and this, because I've already eliminated that degree of freedom. Or, okay, I could make it flush with these two surfaces here because that's where I need it to stop. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it flush with this and this, and then you see it. Now, I can't move any of this. So this is how it's going together. Okay? And this is my isometric view for my public view solution. So then you continue to bring in each piece with flushes or mates. Okay? I don't want the whole thing flushed, and I don't want the whole thing mated. So you have to have at least 2 mates and 1 flush with each of them. You may have more, but you have to have at least that many when you put it together. Okay? So, good luck.